All right, I think we're live. Push one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 832, Black Tech Talk. Please hit the like button and come in and share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. There's a document description beneath the video for you to follow along with and reference. If you want to get on the panel, there'll be a link in the chat. It's a Zoom link. Make sure your Zoom is up to date before joining. Just give me a second. Let me grab that and then we'll get started. All right, push one in the chat if you can see my screen. All right, this is from zdnet.com. 1 in 4 tech professionals are ready to leave their jobs, survey reveals. What does it take to assure a more positive work environment for many stressed out technology workers and professionals? Expand this out. For a while before cooler economic winds tempered things down, the Great Resignation and quiet quitting reflected people's frustration with their current work situations. However, this fever has yet to break among technology professionals, with new research revealing a quarter of IT professionals are considering quitting their jobs in the next 6 months. Heavy workload, stress, and isolation associated with remote work are to blame. The exodus of IT workers has the potential to cost U.S. employers more than $145 billion. Ivanti's report, based on a survey of 8,400 executives, professionals, and office workers, states. It adds that IT professionals are also 1.4 times more likely to quit than other knowledge workers. There is also disturbing finding. Among the quarter of IT professionals considering quitting their jobs, 31% report their mental health is suffering. The report authors also estimate that there has been a 73% increase in IT workloads due to hybrid or remote working, and at least 1 in 4 professionals is suffering from burnout. IT professionals are also 2.5 times more likely to work longer hours when working remotely. In addition, 23% of IT workers cite loss of connection to colleagues, while 17% of office workers cite the loss. Still, despite these challenges, the vast majority of IT professionals, 84%, want to continue to work remotely at least some of the time. What does it take to assure a more positive work environment for many stressed out technology workers and professionals? For their part, the report's authors point to a lack of resources, tools, and support versus a direct result of remote work, which many actually find beneficial. Industry leaders across the spectrum share their concerns and advice about working with information technology. Keep learning. Keep learning is my best advice, says Andrew Duncan, CEO and managing partner at Infosys Consulting. New experiences, new skills development, and new project opportunities are always the best path to keep advancing. Find a mentor that can help you through coaching and advisory. These types of more seasoned business veterans are often a great ticket to opening new doors within a company, especially for younger professionals. Keep yourself visible and market yourself. Show people your success and achievements and the value you have created in a project. Be a team player. Become critically important to the success of your team, says Zavin Nafatanian, co-founder of Niche Club and a former engineering manager at Facebook. As you get more senior, think about your team in broader terms. First, your immediate coworkers, then your organization. Understand what results you, your team, and your organization are supposed to be driving. Don't think of your job as a list of responsibilities, but rather as an investment by the company in order to achieve the some goal. Try to understand that goal, what that goal is, and do everything in your power to help achieve it. Focus on the big picture. Today's technology professionals should look beyond their current role in their organization to think more broadly about the current challenges of the industry as a whole, says Ben Smith, CTO of NetWitness. Internally, they should seek out educational opportunities and tools available to expand their skills and succeed in their roles. Managers should know the top 2 or 3 goals of each of their employees, particularly those goals which may cross over from the professional world into the personal. The sooner a manager realizes that they cannot succeed by managing every employee identically, the stronger then that manager's retention metric will be, whether in cybersecurity or in any other industry. Shift thinking from heads down tech to heads up business concerns. A tech professional who demonstrates how costs could be offset through IT activities instead of simply outlining costs of a project is more likely to be hired or retained, says Jeff Williams, VP of Enterprise and HRO Service for Paychex. Develop the ability to clearly communicate and speak the language of business leaders and investors to position yourself as a business driver and as an indispensable asset. Be a student of your firm. know the income statement, the balance sheet, your competition, and your operating environment. Go to places that differentiate you, your knowledge, and your upside. To build a bridge to more senior positions, you must demonstrate an understanding of the business you're in and in the role technology plays. The people who understand their operating environment and technology's place in it tend to get noticed. So I really don't disagree with this. Okay. I don't disagree with this at all. I think that they're bang on the money with this. I think that especially the last piece. The last piece is actually pretty interesting because you have to be a little bit more seasoned to really have an understanding of what the line item costs are going to be versus what the projected market value is going to be, and how much you need to invest into it. That's usually a more senior role. And a lot of African Americans are not usually in these roles. They don't really know all the nuances that go into that. So they're really not all that knowledgeable enough to really speak to it. And the other half is that when you do know some things, people tend to be more intimidated by what you have to say as a Black person, especially Black men. And so I think the article is spot on in general, but I think specifically when we talk about Black people in IT, this is really true, that there's a lot of burnout. A lot of my friends or colleagues who were in cybersecurity are no longer in cybersecurity right now. They're somewhere else. And so I think that I think companies are trying to put too much load on people's plates, whether it's remote or in office. A lot of companies are really understaffed. They don't have enough headcount to really accommodate a lot of the workload that they're trying to introduce. Whether you're talking about moving to the cloud or, software-defined networks, SD-WAN, these sort of things are really big time when it comes to human resources. You just don't have the resources to go around to be really pushing these sort of projects and these new emerging technologies in the workplace. And so a lot of companies fall behind, and then a lot of people get burnt out. And then it causes turnover. And from a DEI perspective, your metrics tend to be all over the place, not really painting a picture. There's really more like graffiti. And so the article is spot on. I think that I think a lot of the George Floyd fever has really tapered off, but I do think that was a catalyst for a lot of people walking away from the industry. So, Prof, what's going on, man?
How you doing today?
Good, bro. What's going on?
No, like you said, I think the article's spot on. Like you said, cybersecurity is just, and I'm still in it, but I kind of switched over to GRC, trying to get out of their production life. Their production life can get real ugly. So, no, like you said, you're hitting those things right on the head. But I love that remote work. I'm never stepping foot in the office, man. I'm 55. I'm too old to go back to the office, man. So I'm just throwing it out. So, but no, like you said, I know a lot of people, especially cybersecurity, there's just so much, in there that I'm sure you're going to touch on in there, but you still got the gatekeepers. I think we still a million short, but so you not let people in the industry and the people in there, you trying to wear them out. So.
Yeah, I do see some what they call proximity bias. In the workplace and remotely. Some people getting skipped over when it comes time for roundtable discussion, or when you have, just who's the go-to person about certain pieces of information. Well, do we talk to, Prof, or do we go to somebody else when it comes to compliance? Well, Prof works compliance. Why don't you ask him? Well, let's talk to John. It's like, no, why don't we just talk to Prof? Yeah.
Especially when you're new to an organization. I was on a contract and I got laid off and I got picked up. So now, I got to build that equity and that trust in, because like you said, Black men, we don't get the trust off the bat. So, I got to go in there, show what I know, improve, step in. Oh, I think this is it. Try to be gentle. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You know the game. So you got to build that up too, which sometimes that leads to your burnout and you being tired. Go ahead, man. I'll throw that back to you.
No, code switching, creates burnout too, from what I can gather. I think that, too often Black people are trying to fit inside of an environment that's not natural to them.
Right.
It creates a lot of burnout. It becomes a part of the workload itself because you're taking on a persona that is not you. And I mean, you can call it imposter syndrome, but I think that code switching is imposter syndrome to an extent. It's camouflage. You're trying to blend into an environment that you stick out like a sore thumb in.
Yeah, at 55, I kind of carved out. I used to do that when I was younger. As I get older, I'm like, hey, man, this is me. You're going to have to take me as I am, man. I'm getting up there. But you're right. You got to kind of grow in that and figure that out as, you get in the industry. I'm like I said, I'm 55. So now I'm just kind of, you're going to get me as you're going to get me, man. So, but like you said, that all weighs into that burnout and how do you fit in organizations? And sometimes you can feel it when you're in an organization, how they feel about you and, how you fit in and how people are asking you certain questions. A lot of people like to ask me stupid questions and I'm going to step on their head and show them how smart I am. But go ahead, I'll throw that back to you. Yeah. But two, real quick. Quick. Yes, and sir. I think you're going to get in there. That's where the degrees versus skills and when you put together one versus the other too. So I'm sure we're going to jump into that.
Yep. All right, next item on the docket is from cybernews.com. Experiment. IT companies eager to hire self-taught pros. Study for years and pay tens of thousands of dollars in tuition just so you can land a job defending companies against script kiddies who are hacking without any formalized training. Cyber News asks whether cybersecurity professionals can also perfect their craft through hands-on experience. Cyber bandits are often kids. One example was the Lapsus extortion group, which wreaked havoc until the London police arrested 7 teenagers. One 18-year-old from the gang even managed to leak parts of an unreleased Grand Theft Auto 6 game using an Amazon Fire Stick in a hotel while out on bail from other cyber crimes. If self-taught criminals can excel, why can't dedicated cybersecurity or IT specialists? The rapid proliferation of online resources, coding boot camps, and self-guided learning platforms are supposed to help any self-learning individual become proficient without a formal degree. But would tech companies hire solo keyboard warriors gathering experience outside walled college gardens? Cyber News asked and received more than 50 answers from IT companies, and we found a similar pattern appeared. Almost all said that formal education is not required to prove you are competent to do the job in IT or cybersecurity, yet some companies prefer a diploma before the equivalent work experience in job descriptions, while others say that degrees open doors in other companies, but we are different. So which qualification are tech companies actually looking for? Quote, we frequently hire candidates with no formal degrees, says Josh Amishev, founder and CEO of BreachSense, a cybersecurity firm. To be honest, an impressive GitHub repository or active participation in a free open source software project carries significantly more weight than a certification or university degree. He adds, when we hire, we want to know that the candidate gets stuff done. Demonstrating this through your action speaks volumes. Corey Hines, executive chairman and co-founder at Skillable, a training and skill validation company, insists that he considers applicants without any education, as each individual follows their own professional path as they learn how to solve problems and improve on the job. Quote, at Skillable, we are more concerned with what have you done and what can you do versus what have you studied. Practical real world experience and skills always trump academia in our eyes, because how you got those skills is practically irrelevant. It's having the skills that matters, he says. And the company puts its money where its mouth is. Cyber News checked and did not find any requirements for degrees, diplomas, or certification in its job descriptions, just wide list of required work and experience. Quote, for candidates looking to get into cybersecurity, software engineering, or similar positions, the main piece of criteria is to have a relevant set of experiences and evidence that you can and have performed the necessary tasks, Hines said. He doesn't believe that self-education limits career opportunities. As technology is ever changing, employers need not worry about employees who upskill continually and stay motivated and are self-starting and self-managing. Absolutely not. Skills are the greatest currency candidates candidates can have when searching for a new role, especially in a competitive market like we're seeing now. So self-education is expected and evidenced, he adds. The best assets a candidate can have, together with job and life experience, is a portfolio of projects and solutions to showcase skills, revealing both the breadth and depth of expertise. While self-learners are often more focused and driven to produce results, Hines sees them as sometimes lacking the breadth of perspective that comes from having had a formal education. Those who underwent a traditional education tend to have better big picture thinking, but cannot sometimes get things done entirely. These generalizations, he stresses, do not apply to everyone. Quote, I did not have a formal college education. I self-studied technology, became an instructor, author, and consultant. I founded a company and learned by doing or learned by failing to build the organization and make it what it is today, Hines concludes. Travis Lederman, founder of recruitment platform Enjoy Mondays and managing director of Nexus IT Group, also believes that skills and knowledge, not formal engineering degrees, matters the most. In fields like cybersecurity and software engineering, we evaluate candidates based on their technical skills, problem-solving abilities, and relevant experience. We often use technical assessments, portfolio reviews, and interviews to gauge these competencies, irrespective of whether the candidate has a formal degree, he says. While a degree can be beneficial, it's not the only path to success in the tech industry, and self-education can absolutely open doors in the job market. I've seen firsthand a self-taught software developer who started as an intern at my company, he says. Through dedication and continuous learning, this individual quickly became a valuable asset to our team, and they've worked on some high-impact projects. Self-educated engineers often bring a unique perspective and a hunger for learning that can be advantageous in problem-solving and innovation. Lydia Vija, CEO at Decklinks, doesn't discount people lacking formal degrees, but nor does she assume self-education alone prepares someone for a cybersecurity role. These jobs require deep technical experience, expertise, plus an understanding of core computer science concepts, she says. Self-teaching can develop skills, but structured education builds a knowledge foundation. She looks for critical thinkers who can explain their approach and solution rationale when evaluating applicants. Hands-on coding tests reveal problem-solving abilities more than resumes do. Communication and collaboration are also vital skills she is looking for. I've had self-taught hires succeed by actively expanding their education through certificate programs and team knowledge sharing, Vega says, adds. They combine skill building with formal learning. For optimal career growth, I always encourage continuing education in all forms, structured or self-guided, but formal degrees still provide advantages in depth of knowledge. I want candidates passionate about learning whatever the format. Security automation company Swimlane recently found that 1/3 of the organization believe they will never have a fully staffed security team. And the problem is worsening as threat actors become more sophisticated, according to Mike Lieberg, Chief Information Security Officer at Swimlane. I wouldn't fault organizations who believe a role in cybersecurity industry requires a college degree, he says. However, the reality for many cybersecurity positions is that the skills needed to be successful can be gained via industry certification, self-guided education, or even on-the-job training. LIBOR believes opening a cybersecurity role up to specialists without formal education could help close the gap caused by a lack of talent in the industry. True, his company includes a requirement for equivalent work experience for job candidates lacking a bachelor's, master's, or other degree. He says that employers himself included search for skills outside of the traditional cyber roles and would likely choose a candidate who excels at problem solving, time management, and communication, even if they don't have a cybersecurity or IT focused degree. Following common frameworks such as the NICE workforce framework for cybersecurity could help organizations ensure that all colleagues are on the same page. Ken Docherty, a multi-certified professional resume writer in Calgary and owner of Docherty Career Management, shares some tips for self-educators to be more competitive in the job market. They should seek industry-recognized certifications, create a portfolio of projects and hands-on experience to demonstrate skills, attend industry events, and join professionals associations to stay up to date with the latest trends, threats, and technologies. Self-education can be a valuable pathway to a successful career in cybersecurity and IT, he says. However, it may be challenging for self-learners to gain comprehensive understanding of complex topics without structured guidance. He adds many cybersecurity roles require certifications and degrees for the validation of skills and knowledge. And while self-learners can earn certifications through self-study, some employers may still prefer candidates with formal degree or recognized certifications. Traditional education often provides opportunities for networking and internships, which can also be essential to career growth. It's a very exciting time for education right now. People who are yearning to learn have a myriad of choices. Traditional paths are no longer the only way to secure essential experience and expertise to build careers. Said Sharon McClung, career coach at 1010, an online part-time coding bootcamp. She believes that self-education puts learners in the driver's seat and people can find what they need to fit their unique circumstances and goals. Crafting your education to meet your career goals is a freedom that many people seek, and this path can get them closer to their goals more efficiently and economically. Dave Stapleton, CISO of Cyber GRX, says other factors are important, like mindset and attitude. Quote, those with a strong work ethic and intrinsic desire to learn and clearly defined goals can meet and even exceed the outcomes provided by more traditional education outcomes, he says. The most academically qualified candidates in the world will still be a poor hire if they are not a good teammate, for example. He agrees, however, that a lack of a diploma can limit opportunities because many organizations, due to time and other constraints, can't afford to directly engage with applicants in a meaningful way to assess their merit. A degree requirement reduces the pool of applicants to a more reasonable count, even if that means overlooking some high-value candidates. Camille Swarer, CEO of AI, a company that develops AI writing tools, agrees that many companies shortlist candidates based on their documents. So having a degree gets you into the room.
Thanks.
And finally, Christopher Osborne, founder of Vector One, approaches applicants without traditional engineering background with eyes wide open, as mentoring and guidance will be crucial to help them unlock their talent and get rid of potential bad habits. Our company values talent, aptitude, and attitude above all else when considering applicants. We believe that formal engineering degrees are absolutely valuable, but not the sole indicator of potential success in our field, he adds. So here's the deal. I actually agree with all of this. But let me put my Black perspective on for a second, if I can. The problem here is that you have a lot of Black people unemployed. Okay. The Black community has some of the highest unemployment rates in the country. And yet you're telling me that they don't need you don't need a degree to get into cybersecurity or these other roles, but yet who's training these people up? Nobody. So you're not really interested in diversity and equity and inclusion, or lack of a degree and not being needed, because you're not actually going out and skilling these people up. And if you expect Black people to go out there and skill themselves up to sell themselves against a D1, sort of person from, Purdue or Indiana University or MIT, and you think that that's going to work, these are poor strategies. The problem isn't the people. The problem is the organizations that are playing, whack-a-mole with the hiring process. So on one hand, certifications and self-taught is good. On the other hand, we're telling people to go to school and get a degree in our community, go to HBCUs or PWI, and they go out here and they do it, and then they can't get the job because you're saying that they don't have the skill set or the experience. And then the people who don't have a degree, you're saying you're going to take them on because they have this portfolio. Well, I got a news flash for you. There are a lot of Indians who are copying people's resumes off of LinkedIn and other sites and Indeed, and they're using it for themselves to get hired. That is the crux of all of this. This is why in education, post-secondary education is important, because you can actually verify this. You can't always verify someone's skills. It just doesn't work that way. And so for a lot of companies, at least our company, we're less likely to bring somebody on to play around with millions of dollars in Azure and AWS infrastructure in the cloud when we don't know how to verify this person's skills. We don't even know where this person came from. You have no way of verifying anything that this person is doing. Anybody can mimic, what they heard on the live stream or, Twitch or something like that. But when it comes to, structured education, the humanities matter. And so a lot of people on our team don't necessarily have a cybersecurity background, but they have some other background, like, let's say, what do you call it? Archaeology or something like that. They have some kind of different background, but it allows them to have a different approach to things. I think this is all confusing. It makes sense in the article, but when you put Black people into this sort of market, it's confusing to people. And that's why you don't have a whole lot of staffing, cybersecurity and other IT roles fully staffed, because you're sending mixed messages out there and people are very confused about what to do. And that's why I started doing these tech talks, because people were really confused. A lot of Black men were confused as to, okay, well, how do I get into this? I heard you can just do this and take this course and then you'll be all right. Is that true? And then they go out there and they take this course and they find out they can't get a job because they don't have a degree.
Thanks.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that. There's a bit of a catch-22. I've been in the business for quite a few years now, and there's no doubt that that certainly, if you have skills, if you have been somewhat self-taught, like I said, one of the best Unix people. This is so a few years ago, but I always bring up this example. One of the best Unix essays I had ever had a chance of hiring was some young. He was a white kid, of course, and he came from a family who had some money, and they were able to buy some Unix boxes for him. And this kid was able to do all the stuff that he could do at home. He's great load balancing and everything else like that. This kid was awesome. But he learned this at home, picked all the stuff up at home. And then when he came into our company and, we asked him to fix a problem, he was able to do it where there were other people who had better education, more skill. This kid, I think, was 17 years old. His mother had to come in and sign for him to get hired. But still, we had people who had degrees and people who had a lot of experience, couldn't handle the problem that he was able to fix in 2 seconds. And we hired him. And I think at the time, we paid him something like $67 or I think it was $70,000 we paid this kid. And he was 17 years old. That's the kind of money he was making as a child, really. But yet, he did have the equipment and all that, and was self-taught and did not have a formal degree. At the time, he was just coming out of high school, but this is how strong he was. So yeah, we did hire him, but that's kind of unusual. White kid, also parents who had resources. For black, but yeah, straight up for black people, you're not going to really run into that. I mean, that may happen, but I haven't seen it. A lot of black people, a lot of us who have those kind of resources and are able to buy Unix boxes and have these people do all this type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it comes down to really some degree of a community outreach, like we have here in Westchester County. We have Westchester Community College, also with Bronx Community and the community colleges in the city, where now they have cybersecurity programs for kids to come in. No money, no dollars. They're sponsoring these kids, can come in literally for free, get into these programs, study, do very well, and get their certifications and move them through a degree program. That's going on right now here in New York, and right here in my county. So yeah, we have programs like that are working currently, that are looking to bring, and this is literally for minority students, mostly a lot of Black, Hispanic, and they have the STAR program and some other things that are going on that we have here that are helping these kids actually come in, so that they are actually putting an outreach out for these kids. Now, how many are getting hired into the corporations and so forth is still another question, because there is somewhat of a bias against you in getting hired. That is a fact. We have to deal with the fact that there is somewhat of a bias against you. Do you need a degree I've met plenty of programmers and hired programmers and so forth who did not have college degrees but were great programmers. I think college degrees play a somewhat of a significant role when you start getting higher up into systems architecture and so forth, where you have to understand computing and some of the concepts and so forth that are laid out in a computer science type of degree, where you have to understand these concepts that are important when you move further up the ladder. That I would certainly want somebody, if I was going to hire an architect or somebody at that level, moving at a higher up in ranks, you're going to have that type of training, and I'm going to want to see that computer science degree. I'm going to want to see that, or at least somebody have that type of background. If you're going to say that again,
this PBL, Professor Black Ops, is
hold on a second. Anyway, like I was saying, this is something that you're going to want to see when you're going a little bit higher up the ranks. But as far as somebody coming in, being kind of ground floor, ground level, cybersecurity, programming, so forth, networking, and so forth, you don't have to have that degree. But and if you are fairly well self-taught, you can get integrated into these companies. A lot of these people do very well, and we know you don't necessarily need that, but that is also a way, I believe, that these degrees are a way of keeping certain people out. I'm just going to say that I've looked at these Indians. We've seen them hired from all of these tech companies, infotech and all that. Bring all these. They just bring these people in, and a lot of them are straight scamsters. The Indians have some very good programmers, no doubt about it. There's some very good people, but you've got a scamster level coming through that is unbelievable, and they get over just because of the reputation and some of what they get ahead of time. And a lot of these guys are not that great. Some of them don't even have higher level degrees, but they hire them because of their rep that they have. So there's a lot. So there's a great degree of bias. I would always say for young Black people coming into this to definitely get certifications. No question about that. Definitely work towards that. Do internships while you're in school, and if you don't have a degree, start to apply to these corporations and try to get in. Some of these companies will do internships for students, and that's why I say if you are going to a school, even a community college, get on Handshake and these other places, and get out there and start to involve yourself with these companies and really get a push, because you can get an eye, you can get a look at for some companies. You can definitely, but there is a bias against you. There is a bias. And I'm going to say this: college degrees are not necessary to get into the level 1, level 2 level of programming or networking or so forth.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need it. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I know somebody else was chiming to get in. Jump in. Go ahead. Give
Go ahead,
your
Prof.
My only issue, and I agree with Buffy 100%, is, but degrees, I get to interview people we hire, and I always push back. I have a degree. My degree's from 1990, man. I was doing mainframes. So unless I do certs to keep myself current, right? So I try to tell my boss, after a certain time, the degree's good. Degree's gonna teach you how to learn. I can get stuff focused. But I was doing mainframes in 1990, man. I had to get some AWS certs to keep yourself learning, right? So that's how I kind of push back at work sometimes. I'm like, let's give this brother a shot. Even if he's got some certs, you see he's working. Because if you got a degree and it's from 1990 or 2000, that's not relevant. The cloud wasn't even born till 2005, 7, when Amazon first came out. So sometimes I think we have a over reliance on degrees, and I push back. Shout out to my white baby boomers, because they got degrees, so they want everybody to have degrees because they got degrees.
I think the attitude inside of a lot of corporations today are changing. I don't believe it's all degrees based. A lot of people are getting in the tech industry who do not have degrees. I mean, let's look at companies like I worked for Facebook. I worked for Meta. I worked for them as a contractor. I worked for them. You had the founder of Meta did not have a degree, and
but
so
he went
forth.
To Harvard. Go ahead.
So,
my bad.
but did he graduate? As we say, did he graduate? No, he didn't.
I think
he didn't. But I'm just saying is that people know that you can be very talented at this and don't have to have a degree per se.
You talking about the white guy replacement like Zuck. So Fame is saying that, but the banks and the old guard, they're not saying that. I work for old banks and old insurance companies. They're not saying that.
I've worked for them. All right, I've worked for them. I've contracted my company. I've worked them. I've hired a lot of these people. I'm doing that currently right now and getting paid very well.
Are they programmers or are they programmers, right?
Yeah, but most of them
I'll give you programmers. Go ahead.
But I hold on a second. I already spoke on if we're going to deal with a systems architect, somebody who is really, who you're going to have to really understand, like I said, computing, some of these computing concepts that are being taught, these computer science concepts that are being taught in schools that you really have to kind of understand and have a good understanding of, because, you may have a programmer who may think he knows everything at a certain level, but doesn't know what exactly he doesn't know. So somebody who's at a higher level, who's been trained formally, is going to have that that knowledge better. So I'm not going to look to hire a systems architect at a higher level who doesn't have that background. We're talking about people kind of coming in at level 1, kind of level 2 tier type of technology people. But if you're looking at people at the higher levels and so forth, I'm not going to want to have a CTO or somebody else, even though I've seen it. I was working for a company years ago who we had a CTO who was not a college graduate, brilliant guy, and knew everything. He had his hands on everything and learned a lot, and did pick up some of the more, how would I say, more critical concepts that you have to understand in a collaborative computing environment that a computer science background will give you. But that's not really common. That's not a common thing. So that's not anything that I'm really that I would say is, you can do this easily. No, I think at certain levels you do have to have an education. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, let's go to Keep It Techie. What's going on, bro?
Keep It Techie.
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing? Can y'all hear me?
Chilling, I can hear you, bro.
Keep It Techie. What's going on, brother?
Cool.
What's up, man?
What's good, man? Yeah, so I pretty much agree with a lot of your statements, and this is like a question I've been trying to, figure out for a while now, like versus that's why everybody like I interview or whatever, I ask that question, like degrees versus certifications, just trying to figure it out because it's constantly changing. And nowadays, like your point you made, Mike, about people not having I would say the resources or so to actually do the training outside of formal training. I think that has changed a little bit in more recently because of the cloud, because you could do a lot of these training courses online, especially like in cybersecurity when it comes to what's the name of that platform where you can do the
Pluralsight?
cybersecurity.
Cyber?
Pluralsight. It's not Cyber. It's one of the ones where you go in like capture the flag and all that stuff.
Pluralsight got
I
one,
can't.
I think too. Go ahead. Go. I think Pluralsight had one.
Okay. Yeah, it's like one of the major ones. I see a lot of people go in and they do a bunch of the
Capture the flag stuff.
Yeah, capture the flag stuff. And so you don't need the resources at the house that much. All you need is an internet connection. And so you can get through a lot of that training just by having an internet connection. And I understand there are people out there that don't have those, some kids don't even have a computer. They're using their phone at the house. You know what I'm saying? For school and stuff like that. I know that from my sister being a teacher, and she's talking about some of these kids not having the resources. So I get it. But I think a lot of these companies are putting this out there now because they're looking for the out of the box people, or the people that can bring innovation. You see what I'm saying? And think outside the box when it comes to a lot of this stuff, because it's different when people learn like that. It's different from just the structured learning you would get from a traditional college, in my opinion, based on how the curriculum is behind a lot of times, and just other areas. And hopefully that makes sense. I don't know. I'm just giving my thoughts.
You said you had a question. You said you had a question.
Oh, yeah. And that was dealing with the cloud, just saying that a lot of the training is in the cloud now, where people can access it without needing like a Oracle box or anything like that. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, no, I'm not arguing against that. I'm saying from a time management perspective, if you stocking shelves at Walmart or Target or something like that, and you don't really have all the sort of flexibility. Most of these people who are in those positions are working 2 or 3 jobs. They're working for Uber, they're working for Lyft, they're at Target and Walmart. They don't have all that flexibility, and so sometimes they need to be put in a structured environment like a college on-prem that can actually discipline them and get them right. Some folks are just like that. They don't have all of that temerity to really be sitting in front of a computer and doing things on their own without any sort of assistance. That's just not realistic for everyone. And so I agree with Prof, though, about big legacy banks. They still thrive on, D1, D2, D3 schools, D4 schools for that matter, that are producing a lot of this IT talent. You still, because you still have white leadership there. They're still looking for that proximity bias.
Zuckerberg blueprint. My bad. I had to say Zuckerberg blueprint. Keep going.
Because you won't make it past the HR filter unless you go in through some other sort of DEI initiative or some kind of recruiting sort of talent hunt, talent acquisition. It's still complicated. And so I'm saying that where the organizations are sending mixed messages, like even in this article, some of the people interviewed are saying, well, yeah, you don't necessarily need a degree. And then there's some people saying you do need a degree because, you need to understand the humanities. You need to understand, you have good aptitude and attitude and stuff like that. And it's like, it's really confusing if you're Black and there's nobody there that looks like you to reflect, whether or not you can get in or not, So we got Black people with degrees that can't get in.
A ton.
So how is it possible to say that, well, you don't necessarily need a degree? Well, you're sending a lot of mixed messages. Well, you can never fill your DEI quota. You can't make, sense of the metrics because you're never able to actually fulfill none of these roles and have that diversity that you're looking for, primarily because you're all over the place as an organization. And I feel like some of the training that we're talking about, Pluralsight and some of these things, I think that's good from a knowledge perspective, but I can tell you right now, we don't go by any of the industry standards, even though we're supposed to go by industry standards, whether it's NIST 800-53 or what do you call it?
FedRAMP, HIPAA, all that stuff.
FedRAMP, HIPAA.
HIPAA.
We deviate from a lot of these sort of things because the culture is not consistent in keeping up with the changing of the times. And so we're always lagging behind, and we're always understaffed and under-resourced because we can't seem to, the people at the top don't seem to get what's happening at the bottom, that we're overloaded with work. We don't have enough cycles in a day to actually fulfill a lot of this. People need to be on call. You don't have enough resources to be on call. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that are going on that's not really discussed in this article that actually is impacting a lot of organizations' hiring abilities. And what it's doing is it's creating burnout. We're understaffed right now by 3 or 4 security engineers. We just don't have enough. And you know, I said earlier at the top of the hour that a lot of my friends have left cybersecurity. You know, they're out. The burnout was too much, and they pretty much exited their way out. And so I don't know, man. I think that for Black people, this is very confusing because we're telling our kids to go to HBCUs. They go to HBCUs, and you have an article come out that says, well, you don't really need a degree. And now they got, you know, tens of thousands of dollars in debt that they've accrued. And, you know, no one's really being consistent here. And I think that, you know, is causing the conflict, you know. And I know some people in the manosphere are like, well, go take this AWS class. And it's like, yeah, that sounds good, but you're not going to be working for AWS with just AWS certs. I can tell you that right now. 5-6 rounds of interviews ain't going to happen.
Mike, I got to chime in. I did the loop. They ate my ass up, and I'm old. I did a 5-hour interview, and a lot of that stuff wasn't even technology. They were like, "Are you a corporate fit?" They gave me some. What was this term? The evangelist. Me and him actually got in an argument over NIST 800-53. I think I told him he didn't know what he's talking about. That was Dave Chappelle when Keeping It Real goes wrong. But now that AWS 5-hour loop, that ain't no joke, man. That's go ahead.
I had to take 2 days off of work just to do the interviews because it was 6 rounds. And so
then did you study your STAR technique? I'm old. I had to get update on my STAR technique and all that other stuff, and I was struggling, man.
Yeah, so that STAR technique is important. It's definitely something that you got to learn because these people are definitely going to come at you with that.
Yeah, you need to coach them on that. PBO was a little late. I did it like 2 days to get ready, but PBO wasn't quite ready. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
No, you know, you bring it up, I'm laughing because I'm like, boy, ain't you telling the truth? But you know, these are facts. I mean, these are great conversations to have. But I'm going to say, like the big banks and so forth, yeah, they're going to play a certain role. But I'm going to tell you right now, in healthcare and a lot of other places where you have smaller companies, where you can get in and get it and get your foot in the door at, you know, and it may not be, you may not be going to, like I did. I was at Meta, you know, I was at you know, some of the bigger houses here in, you know, in this country, some of the bigger banks. I understand that environment exceedingly well, but there's smaller companies too that you can get your get a start into as well. And that's something I also would like to just say for a lot of people. Look at the smaller healthcare firms and smaller companies that are smaller tech firms that will give you a shot. You gotta be, you know, pretty, you know, you gotta be handy. But once again, as this has not changed, there are over 1 million recs today on the books right now, unfilled in this company right now, well over 900,000. Well, I mean, so I'm just saying, so that's there. Mike, I know the point you're talking about. We've talked about this many times to be able to turn the corner on this. There is a lot of difficulty, but we've got to really start somewhere. But go ahead, Mike. You were going to make a point. Go ahead, very quickly. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to make a point. You say 1 million recs, and I do agree with that, but we're also seeing a lot of tech layoffs. And so it seems to be
we are in certain areas.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of hypocrisy in a lot of these interviews and articles being covered where you see, oh, well, we have a cybersecurity shortage, but you also have tech layoffs, right? So which one is it? You know, I mean, if all you value is skills, why aren't you skilling up those other people who have been laid off in Silicon Valley? It shouldn't be that difficult. It's confusing to a person who's not in the industry, and it's also confusing to us because we know that there's a lot of mixed messaging going on. And so I think that I think a lot of these boot camps and online training courses and things like that, I think they're good to get the foundation down. But I also think that we're creating a race to the bottom. And, you know, it was a time when, you know, you can be an IT person. I remember we covered this during the pandemic where you had AI blockchain jobs going for $300,000-$400,000 in salary.
Nice.
You don't really hear about that anymore. And so I think that these online training programs and boot camps and things like that are really creating, glorified intern roles where they don't have a degree, but they can actually do one or two responsibilities that need to be done, and they just kind of delegate that work down to these people coming from these boot camps and training programs, and then never really fully hire them full time. You know, keep them on a contract loop, and have them look like, yeah, we have diversity and inclusion, but yeah, this person's a contractor. This person is, you know, an intern. This person is an extern or something like that. These sort of things really confuse and cloud up the market, man. I think that when it comes to Black people, especially Black men, you know, I do a lot of mentorship, you know, in the manosphere, and I can tell you right now, there's a lot of guys in here who are confused about where the market is going and what the hell is happening here. They're really trying to figure out, how do we navigate this?
And you're hitting it. You're dead on the money. And this is a real thing that really cuts even deeper into the hypocrisy. The gap, the skills gap, and so forth that we have with jobs and so forth in this country from a technical standpoint is increasing. It's not decreasing.
Facts.
It's increasing. What do we do?
Well,
very key question. Anyway, wait. Go ahead, PBL. Go ahead, my man.
Just real quick, and just to chime in on what I always tell people: if you're trying to get your foot in the door, go get a state job. They don't pay well, but they use some of the best technology. After 2 years, you can go make bank. I worked at a large Indiana state agency. They use Oracle, Cisco. They didn't pay well, but once they got it, and even the vendors go through and cherry pick those guys because they get to see you work. So I tell people to hit that state, especially if you can go in. You can easily get in that door. Go ahead, Mike.
No, that's facts. That's facts. Let me play this clip. This is from Fortune.com. Former IBM CEO Ginny Rometty doubles down on skills over degrees to get more and more people better jobs. Now, keep in mind, Ginny is a co-founder with Ken Frazier from Merck, former CEO of Merck, for 1 million jobs in 10 years, or 1 million skilled professionals in 10 years. That's their goal, you know, for DEI. See what she has to say.
You said, what would be the one thing I want them to remember from my little humble point of view would be, as they look to build their teams, if they would really internalize and embrace a skills first culture, meaning look at people for their skills first, not just their degrees, reward them for that, promote them for that. It will change everything you do in your company at the end of the day. But if you want the most diverse and inclusive workforce in short order, that is one of the most important paradigms. And as you go on in your career, I say to people, look, sometimes we all think we'll be remembered for what our company did or what you did. Maybe you'll be remembered for how it was done. And to me, this is an important part of how you build a team in a workforce.
Pretty interesting. Especially coming from somebody like her, IBM, that valued, you know, big time degrees over skills for a long time. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of contradictions being put out here. You know, on one hand, the former CEO of IBM says, you know, skills over degrees, and then, you know, comes from an organization that values degrees over skills. You know, it's one of those things, man. Again, people who don't look like us are sending mixed messages. I think it's a way to gaslight people. Everybody wants to catch that sound bite and make it sound like they're going to go viral. And, they said something profound by saying skills over degrees, while, you got all these people running with high levels of student loan debt, and stuff like that. It doesn't make any sense to me. If your organization has good processes in place, good documentation, and good culture, good governance, that shouldn't be a problem to bring someone on with lesser skill and have them skill up. When I used to work for Dell, they wouldn't let you touch anything for 6 weeks until you went through all of the vigorous onboarding. Their onboarding process is probably one of the best in the industry. You can't touch anything until they have put you through the paces, and then they'll cut you loose and let you do your job. But that first 6 weeks, you're not doing anything to their equipment. They're not letting you touch any of their millions of dollars of equipment that's in place, network racks, all that stuff. You're not touching anything until you have a fair understanding and you've gone through the paces. And so I think if organizations are having a hard time hiring, it's probably because a lot of organizations have poor governance in their organization.
I guess
that's a huge problem. A huge problem. That's a huge problem. Poor governance, poor organization, poor leadership.
Yep.
Big problem. That's the biggest problem, I would say. Being with me dealing in the corporate environment for a lot of years, and just currently now, and just dealing with a lot of this management. Wow, it's really screwed up. A lot of HR, quite frankly, they have certain kinds of how would I say kind of skills that they want you to have for many of these HR departments that you have doing a lot of the hiring, quite frankly, mostly women. I'm not going to say anything against that, but a lot of them are just, they're not competent on a lot of this stuff, not at the level that they should be. I mean, I have to be very frank with you, and the bias factor is big. We don't want to deal with that, but that is a big thing. There is a bias against you, and that is something that we have to deal with. I found myself having a problem with my company just where they try to lay a Java programmer off, a young lady. I think I was telling Mike about this late last year, early this year, who tried, they just tried to knock her out the box. And it was a black female. I don't know what else to say, but there was no reason to get rid of her. I had to go to bat. Thank God there was a black person there who could go to bat and keep this person well in line and keep them going, to keep them around over some craziness that was happening. So there is a bias that we do have that we still have to deal with. And Mike, I would like to ask you guys, I have some ideas, but how do you feel we can turn the corner on that? Because that is what's affecting a lot of us. Go ahead.
I think if I had to, take a shot at it, I would say that I think cities and state governments need to have ESG goals and metrics in place for a lot of these companies. You're not getting any tax abatements or tax benefits, within the state until we see you reach these sort of environmental, social, and governance goals. And you have to show us the metrics. You can't just be, think about Amazon in New York. When AOC went to bat against Amazon, they wanted $2.5 billion from the city of New York.
Nice.
But who's going to benefit from this? It's not New Yorkers that's going to benefit. Oh, it's going to create jobs. Yeah, jobs with a race to the bottom. That doesn't really help New Yorkers at all. And so these are the sort of issues I think that can be addressed with sort of frameworks like ESG, DEI, and initiatives. I think you have to hold companies' feet to the fire. There's no excuse as to why Black people have such a high unemployment rate, and you're telling me that they don't need degrees to work in cybersecurity or these other IT professional roles, but yet you can't seem to find any Black people competent enough to work for your organization. I'm not buying it. Not buying it at all. And so I think that there's it starts at the top. If you look at Microsoft, Google, and IBM, all of their leadership that was white, Steve Ballmer, Ginny Rometty, and what's the other guy from Google? Page. What's his name?
Shit, Brandon Page, wasn't it?
Not Brandon. No, it's not Brandon. I forget his name now. But basically, all of those people they have let go, and replaced them with what? Brown faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of them are Indian CEOs. All
Right.
Microsoft, Google, and IBM are all run by Indian CEOs right now. And so the problem starts at the top. They say the fish rots at the head. And so I think that the problem is at the top. It reflects a lot of the attitude that trickles down to the bottom. It's really poisonous in a lot of organizations, like you say, Nagone, where a lot of the biases that's in there, a lot of proximity bias, a lot of racial bias and things like that that are really hurting camaraderie inside the organization. You can't really bring people on. I mean, yeah, you hire a Black person, but you don't really actually acknowledge their presence in the room. Especially a lot of Black men, right now that I talk to offline, man, 50 plus, those guys are biting their nails because they know that the writing is on the wall for them, that they can, they may end up having to get 3 months of severance and being saying, hey, have a nice life. What are they supposed to do? You want 50 plus year old person to compete against a 20-year-old in an interview? Not going to happen, man. So I think, it's another discussion that needs to happen for a lot of Black men who are 50 plus years old trying to, wade the waters in IT. You may have to start thinking about create your own organization at this point. And I think we need to start talking about how we get funding for things like that. How do we get, angel funding for Black folks who are 50 plus in the industry? These sort of things have to be, dissected at some point.
So I was a 55-year-old guy who got laid off. No, that's facts. Number one, I've been in this industry forever and I got a unique skill set, but if you've been in this game long enough, you can tell when that's going to happen, right? I'm kind of, okay, we laying off, we losing some contracts, we're not replacing the GRC guys. I need to jet and get out, right? But now, especially once you get over 50 and you Black, that's a whole different ball game. Throwing it back to you, man. That's a whole different ball game.
Go ahead, keep it taking. Oh, he's gone.
No, I'm here. And so I was just going to say back to that video. It is a lot of contradiction. I agree with you there 100%. From the top down, you know what I'm saying? It's just interesting and eye-opening to see, this coming from the top like that. And it's confusing because you see plenty of jobs on, like you can go on LinkedIn now and see plenty of jobs that require degrees that, you wouldn't typically see. And then with this statement, it's skills over that. Well, that's a direct contradiction. So that's all I want to add.
Well, think about AI, right? If companies HRs are using AI, you think about, tier one companies, you got your Goldman Sachs and, JP Morgan and Bank of America, these big, large entities, these whales in the market, they're going to use AI to try to filter out all of these people. But what's going to happen is that if the AI has been written in a more biased way to look for degrees, well, what happens when you tell Black people they don't need a degree?
No, it's even worse than that, Mike. I worked at a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company. I always been me. They were looking PWI at Big 10 or Ivy League schools. I'm like, what are you doing? What you mean Big 10 Ivy? She goes, well, for this position, we get 4,000 resumes. And I just told her, you ain't gonna never get no Black people.
Oh, yeah. Unless they have like a recruiting program with HBCUs. I think Apple is doing that right now where they're pulling talent. They think they started that with the George Floyd sort of protest where they decided that they were going to partner with HBCUs to increase their DEI goals. But the problem here is that you still have gray folks up in the workplace causing a ruckus with their what do you call it? Passive aggressiveness in the workplace and making it difficult to share knowledge. I can't tell you how many times early in my career where people have not CC'd me on emails, that was pertinent to my role. And
Right.
then I don't have enough knowledge to do my role because I was not given, that information at the end of the day. And so you're like, why wasn't this done? Well, it wasn't done because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about it because I wasn't CC'd on it. I wasn't CC'd on it because there was an intention to make sure that my role was sabotaged. And it's all about sandbagging the whole DEI thing, making sure that, we tried, to hire, a prof, but he just didn't work out all that well. So we decided to part ways with him.
Facts, man.
No question about it. No question about that.
And y'all been in the C-suite. I'm just at a position where I get and sit in the C-suite because I report to a couple people and I'm an advisor. And there's very few Black men in that C-suite, man. It was astounding to me. And I've been doing this for about 20 years where since I do GRC, like you talking about NIST, some of that has legal ramifications. I'm the expert. So I get to sit, not at the big boy table. I'm a roll back, but I'm there. There don't be no Black men in there, man. It's crazy.
Oh, there's no question about it. My company, and when I was over at Meta, and there were hardly any brothers at all. And guys like myself, which I found very interesting, companies were throwing money at a few of us. And here I am, I'm a Black guy over the age of 50, and they were throwing, it was ridiculous. It was a very small number of us that they're playing with like that at many different levels. It's a small number of us, very small number. You don't see many of us around.
Well,
you don't see.
I'll go ahead. My bad. Go ahead, Nicole.
No. I was just saying, what you're saying is absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct.
But me too, when I made a decision, which could have been a wrong decision, is I was over people. And like Mike was talking about, people were going around me that I was supervising above my head. I had to push back down. I wasn't on email. So I was like, dude, I don't want to be in management. I'm going to go that consulting tech track. But there is a ceiling to that, right? The money really gets huge on any company in management. Sometimes I think I went in management, but as we, those nuances, that microaggression was just wearing me out, man. So I just went the tech route. Throw it back to Mike.
The microaggressions are part of what we have to deal with. That's a part in that environment.
I'm interrupting you, Nagon. You've been out there by yourself, man. It's like you in the ocean by yourself, and you just get pebbles, sharks swimming underneath you. You ain't got no help. Go ahead, man.
I've negotiated some real ill stuff, and I came into a rather unique position where it was almost like no white person need apply for my opportunity. No white man need apply. So that's how I got mine with this company I'm with. And oh man, even coming in, being hyper competent, being on top of your game, that created a lot of problems, a lot of
because the young white boys gonna try you. Yeah, they gonna try you. That's how I was. Young white boys gonna try you. Go ahead.
They come, and these are supposed to be liberal white boys and guys who are supposed to be down and all. Oh my God. So you don't buy any of that as you understand how that works. But this is part of what we have to of what we deal with. We need more of us in here. We need more of us at certain levels to really help to make that environment more compatible for you. But it's tough to get us in there, and there is a push against that. Now we do know how would I say Silicon Valley and all that. We know that there's a bias against Black people in Silicon Valley. There's a bias there. This has been proven.
Oh yeah, I was doing some work out there. It was crazy.
We've looked at the numbers. Yeah, I mean, we've looked at it. So we understand that there is. I keep talking about the bias because that's something that we have to really deal with. And some of what Mike was talking about, and literally holding companies, feet to the fire for and some of the public funding that they get should be a part of that. Yeah, that's got to be a part of that. It's got to be part of the game, because just bringing you in and having out of the goodness of these people's hearts to really help you to integrate well in there is not going to happen. They're not going to bring in easily, and they're definitely not going to do that. And I've seen it. Go ahead, Mike.
What I find that they're doing is that they're trying to bring in Indian and Pakistani people and create DEI metrics to that, right? And they'll say, oh, well, we have, this much diversity and inclusion, and equity in these areas. But in reality, it's these people from Infosys, from India, and whatnot come in. And I don't have anything against them. I'm just making the point that, it's what we call DEI washing, where they're actually bringing in these foreigners who are contracted in India, but never step foot in the United States, but actually are always on Zoom or Teams or whatever it is, Slack or whatever it is. And then they try to include those people and say, oh, we're very inclusive. See, we have all these Indian people. Yeah, but they're contractors for Infosys or some other organization. And they're not really a part of the organization from a legal standpoint. And so there's a lot of washing going on that's really hurting folks.
I talked to a CIO and we actually had that conversation. We actually had some Indian hires that came over and I asked her, I said, Alita, what's going on? We need that. And she started counting. She said, no, John, I was like, Alita, all those are Indian people. They not black. We can't count them. So like you said, Mike, I think that's ingrained and they really believe that.
Yeah, I mean, they're melanated, yes, but they're not, I can tell you right now, they're not down with you, man. They
facts.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, I think generally they tend to be nice people and they're just doing their job, but they're caught up in the politics of the office. It's causing a lot more issues than
Indian people can be mean though. That's all I'm gonna say. I had some couple run-ins. Oh my God. So they're like anybody else though. You just gotta put your foot down and they left me alone. But I'm gonna roll that back. A lot of people, when you're a black man and you're at a high position, they're gonna try you.
Yeah.
So I just come in the room stretching because I know it's coming. Go ahead, Mike.
But my manager,
that is a standard. That is a standard. That's a standard.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to have some social dominance in those areas. But in my experience, anecdotally speaking, is that all of my hiring in cybersecurity has come from either women or Indian men. Mm-hmm. So I haven't had an actual white person, an Anglo-Saxon, say, "Oh, well, Mike's a great guy." No, they don't. There's a term called the good guy. Quote unquote. He's one of the good guys. Yeah.
I've been called that. Go ahead. I've been called that.
He's one of the good guys.
And that term is you a good nigga. That's what they're really saying. But anyway, go ahead.
But real quick though, I've just been lucky where I've been hired by mostly white guys. And it was weird. This guy was the head of DOD. I did some work for him. And like you said, Mike, other people were failing. So he actually liked me and we became a bond. Then when I got to know him, I just said somewhere like, man, I'm from the hood. He goes, man, I'm from a dumb and wide trailer. We're going to be fine. So me and him just got along. And like I said, but like you said, probably 1 in a million,
yeah, it's exceptional. It's exceptional. All right. Somebody in the last week, and the reason why we even, I just sparked this stream up was because last week someone reached out to me and asked about network engineering. And one of my colleagues is actually a network architect. He's a brother. He's a network architect for the company. And so he has a lot of responsibility on his hands in terms of, from a cybersecurity standpoint, he's in charge of network security architecture. And so he's looking at this from a physical rack, physical appliance standpoint. How do you improve security architecture as well as the networking architecture primarily within the organization? And so the question was, well, how do I get into network engineering? I want to be a network engineer. Okay, this is where they set their sights at. This brother set his sights here. And so here's my approach to this. No one's going to hire you with a CCNA if you don't have any real Cisco experience. This is just a reality. MOT can't hire someone to drive 18-wheelers with 80,000 pounds of payload in the back if you haven't proven that you can move 21 gears on your own. Just can't do it. You have to be able to prove that you had that previous experience. My approach to this is Network Plus right off the gate, primarily because the new Network Plus certifications have simulators in them. Not a whole lot, maybe about 3, 4, 5, or 6, at best, 5 or 6. And you kind of do have to put together a router, a network switch, and a wireless access point. I think that's like the third one. And I think that you may have to configure a rack for that matter as well. I haven't taken it in years. It's been years since I've taken the Network Plus, but I know the new ones do have these simulators in there. And so I do think it's a good primer before you get to the CCNA. And it actually helps, pad your resume with the fact that you do have at least some understanding of network systems, network-based systems. And so here just going to look at this really quickly. What skills will you learn? Network fundamentals, network implementations, network operations, network security, which is what my colleague does, and network troubleshooting. And so the latest version of the certification came out in 2021. So you should be pretty good, and you don't have to wait, another 6 months, before they come on a new one. I think you should be fine. Now's the time to take it. 90 questions on there. 90 minutes you have 1 minute per question. My advice is, when you study and you take the exam, don't get caught up in trying to answer every single question. Move through the ones that you know, and then skip past the ones that you don't. You'll come back to it later. Those simulations are going to slow you down. It's going to take you 5 minutes per simulator at best to actually complete. If you have about 3, 4, 5 simulations, that's going to be a good 20, 25 minutes out of your time. Out of 90 minutes, you're going to have less and less time to answer questions. So you got to kind of speed through what you know versus what you don't know. So don't get caught up in trying to fight every single question. It's just not worth it. You're gonna get something wrong on there. No one walks away with 100%. Very rarely. That's exceptional if you ever hear anybody say, "Oh, I scored 1,000 on the Network Plus." Not gonna happen. Okay, there's a lot of gotchas in there that's designed to trip you up, and so you don't want to get caught up in that. I still think that Network Plus is relevant before the CCNA, primarily because there's a lot of proprietary things that Cisco has that if you haven't used a Cisco routing and switching gear before, you're not going to be able to know or understand what the question refers to. And sometimes that requires a little bit more studying of those Cisco study guides before you actually get to that point. But I do think that the Network Plus is still a relevant certification before you get there. Let me bring up the other one as well. You're not going to be CCNP. You shouldn't even think about getting to CCNP before you even get past Network Plus. CCNA is that next step after Network Plus. I know a lot of people like, man, your CompTIA sucks and it's this and that. Damn all that, because everybody got to start somewhere. Everybody need a learner's permit before they got their license. It's just reality. I think that Network Plus is still a learner's permit compared to the license of a CCNA. I know many organizations that won't let you touch their equipment. Dell, HP, IBM, they won't let you touch their networking gear until you actually have a Network Plus. And so that stuff is still relevant. I think even Comcast even requires it too. And so here we go right now with the Cisco certification, the CCNA, still relevant. Regardless of what anybody says, this stuff is still relevant. Big corporations still use Cisco gear. I know a lot of them are adopting Palo Alto, but Palo Alto, Cisco, FortiGate, Juniper, all of the command lines are pretty much the same. They just have some proprietary features, but a lot of the gear is still the same. It's just a matter of understanding the nuances in the proprietary features. So what does it say here? Possible job roles: network administrator, network engineer, system administrator, system engineer. Prerequisites: no formal prerequisites, but 1 or more years experience implementing and administering Cisco solutions is recommended. Kind of hard to get that if you don't actually have corporate experience implementing it. I mean, you could do it at home in the basement somewhere, but corporations don't really want you playing with their gear unless they can verify that you've done it successfully somewhere else. And so that goes back to the skills versus degree thing, right? You don't need a degree to be a network engineer, but you still need to have some grounded understanding of the English language when you type emails. And I can tell you right now, some of the emails I see coming from folks, man, if it wasn't for, autocorrect, man, you think they type with their toes. It's really critical that you actually are not putting in or sending out the wrong information about some network IPs or subnets or things like that, because then you could throw everybody off. We just had a DR test, disaster recovery test, that did not go well because documentation was wrong, because it was written wrong and it was written poorly.
Right.
That's just the reality. These things happen. Not saying you need a degree, but that, you know, people who had the degrees didn't write it. You know, it was just people who shot from the hip.
Yeah, and being able to write somewhat competently and being able to express it, that's very important as well. There's no question about that.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I just ran a DR test, and that's all about clear communications of who's responsible for when, what, how, and where. So
That's exactly.
I just ran a DR test, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Yes.
Oh,
Go ahead, Josh, please.
No, you good. I didn't know if you was finished. I was going to wait till the end.
Yeah, I was just going to go over this real quick. CCNA is one exam. Like it says right here, required exam and recommended training. You only need one exam, and then you have the recommended training. I go to, I'm a book guy because I'm old school like that. I like the physical book. And so I use informant.com to get my books. They have a lot of Cisco. Let's go to, let's type this in, CCNA. Let's go to publication date. Let me see, 200-301. What's the 200-301? So that's the latest exam, right? So let's click on. Let me see, 200-301. Let's type that in. All right, cool. Here we go right here. This is a cert guide and network simulation library. This is $143, but I think if you sign up, everything's going 50% off right now. And so you really can't go wrong with reading and the simulator that comes with it. For all my books, I have an ebook to go with the physical book, just in case I need to travel. I got an e-reader that I carry with me, and I can kind of read on the fly when I'm on the flight. Also, the audio books are really great too. You can kind of listen while you're working, kind of soak up the game, so to speak. I think that I think if you study this and I think if you can pass the Network Plus, you're pretty gold and ready for the CCNA. But I also think that if you going to take the CCNA, I think you really need these books and simulators before you even get into it. You could go on eBay and buy the CCNA bundle racks and stuff like that, but you know, a lot of people may not have all the space for that. It requires a little bit of juice in your house that you may not be having available, man, if you're charging your e-bike and stuff like that, because it does drain the electricity a little bit, and it's noisy. It's really noisy. You know, when you hear those fans start spinning up, man, and you gotta deal with all that heat. That becomes a problem. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, yeah. So I just wanted to, reiterate what you're saying, man. Like that Network Plus is where you wanna start off if you want to go down the CCNA route. I 100% agree with you. I tell people that all the time. And I even go as far as tell people that Network Plus certification by CompTIA can help you in a lot of other areas as well. I mean, as a systems administrator, I worked as a systems administrator. I had Network Plus before I got any other certifications, and they helped me in those systems administration positions where you understand, because you get to understand how these computers communicate and all this equipment, on the network communicate within each other, with each other, as well as I mean, you guys know I work with databases now, so Network Plus has helped me in those positions as well. Just understanding how to set up those clusters and how they communicate. So the benefits of Network Plus, will help you kind of know no matter where you go. And then also cybersecurity side of it, you need to understand how networks work in order to protect it. And that's why, with cybersecurity, I always tell people you need to understand those fundamentals. So I 100% agree with you there. You know what I'm saying? And CompTIA is still that industry standard out there. And I know you pointed out some of the labs that people can go through. Isn't another one EvenG? I believe that's one of them.
Yeah, that's one.
That allows you to simulate networking. And then what's the other one? Is so you don't have to buy that equipment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
Talking about Bosun.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just reiterating what you're saying. Mike, you're 100% on point. That's all I got.
Yeah, just real quick, like you said, networking is the basis of cybersecurity. The first thing you got to control is your packages, subnets, and where they go. So even as a cybersecurity person, you got to understand the basics, at least of networking, subnets, VLANs, at least at a high level. So
definitely, and that's what I think it trips a lot of people up because they want to go from Walmart to cybersecurity, and I'm like,
come on, Mike, ease up, go ahead.
No, it's true though. It's true, like because the articles are saying skills versus degrees. Well, if you had the skills, you could just, I mean, we've heard it in the manosphere about some people who are Gordon's fishermen, and now they're in cloud, and I just don't buy that. I think that because what the Network Plus does is it humbles you in regards to what your typical day-to-day operations are, because there's a lot of ports and there's a lot of there's a lot of protocols that you may not really be familiar with, and so if you don't understand the 5 port 80 443 8080.
Let me chime in real quick. I'm studying for the CISP, which is the highest cybersecurity, and I got 100 ports written down on my sheet right now. BGP for the network, SMP, LDAP, FTPS. So I'm studying them now. Hell, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have these fundamentals down. And so a lot of guys, a lot of people, I should say, don't necessarily have these fundamentals down. And so when it comes to cybersecurity, they kind of at a loss because they don't know what they're defending, because they don't understand the architecture or the or what how these protocols and these ports actually matter to an organization. And so what are you actually studying, or what are you actually hoping to gain when it comes to CCNA or even get into cybersecurity? But what are you going to be doing? Working in a SOC somewhere, doing third shift? And I don't think you really want to be in that position where you kind of faked it till you made it, and then you don't really know what's going on because you got through the HR process and now you're trapped in treading water, trying to survive inside this whirlwind of an industry. It will eat you up and spit you out if you don't actually have some good grounding as to what needs to be done from a responsibility standpoint and what where you're trying to go.
100%. The other part that we talked about too, though, is on-prem and the cloud, right? That looks like one network. So now you got your on-prem and your cloud looking like one network. So now how do you control your traffic? How do you do network in the cloud? How you put a Cisco marquee inside AWS to make it look like one network, right? So now the network is extended from you remote to all the way to the cloud. So it's getting more and more complicated.
Well, in the cloud, it's a little bit different because your network architecture is going to be vastly different than what it looks like on-prem, because on-prem is kind of static, but in the cloud, you don't really have all of the same nuances that's on the ground. You kind of know where your switches and routers are. You don't know what's going on in your cloud environment because you're just paying for the service.
Yeah, it's all dynamic too. It's up and down, 100%. But like you said, it's different networking, and you need to understand that too from both sides of that, especially from a cybersecurity perspective. So I've been trying to get my AWS cert so I could be 55 and relevant. But go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was going to introduce Ernest to the panel. What's going on, Ernest?
What's up, fellas?
What's going on, bro?
Yeah, I saw the title, so I decided to maybe get my 2 cents on the title. I'm down here in Huntsville, which is 90% DoD contracting. And I work for one of the big boys, one of the big DoD contractors. And now it may be done differently elsewhere, but down here, if the last word in the job title is engineer, your ass gonna have to have a degree.
I
Now
know who you work for, so go ahead.
Now you can be a PC technician, which you get those certs and everything, but if the last word in the job title is engineer, your ass gonna have to have a STEM degree. That's just there are outliers, so there are exceptions to every rule. But in my experience down here, and I've been here a while, if the last word is engineer on that job title, especially if you're Black, you're gonna have to have a 4-year STEM degree, bottom line. Now, once you get in there, you acquire certain things like the current company I'm with. When I got in there, I got a Security Plus and a Linux Plus, but I did have a STEM degree. So that's my 2 cents.
From what you've heard us talk about earlier, I don't know how much you've heard, but skills versus degrees. What's your take on skills and degrees?
Well, in my experience, the degree gets you in the door, the skills keep you in the door. And you know this, I think Josh is more heavily DoD contracting than maybe the other guys. I may be wrong, but when you get in the door with one of the big boys, they pretty much are they got a lot of tools there to get you up to snuff as far as training and what you want to do. But they're looking to up your skill set. If you don't up your skill set, you just dragging along for a year or two, you're going to have a lot to answer for. So it's both in the DoD contracting world down here in the South.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to the folks that reached out to me last week, talking about this network engineer role, that's a journey. Network engineering is a journey. It's not something that you just wake up, on Monday and I'm gonna get started. That's a journey. Most people start off as network analysts. Most people start off, doing racking servers and data centers and stuff like that. I remember one of the guys I did undergrad with, a network company actually had him started off wiping Cisco switches and routers that were coming from the government because they had to ensure that these things were wiped before they actually get recycled. And so that's how he got into networking. During undergrad, he's a network engineer now. He's a pretty CCNA and Network Plus, and I'm showing Server Plus on the screen primarily because that matters too, right? And that's that lateral approach, right? I go from Network Plus, I go to Server Plus, I go from there to the CCNA because, from a CompTIA perspective, that's the final stop for you. That you're not really, there's nothing else in the CompTIA cycle certification-wise that you need to achieve in order to get to that CCNA. Once you get that Network Plus and Server Plus, and you make that leap to CCNA, I would say, and I think somebody else had mentioned it, that I think like 1/3 of the CCNA comes out or can be found in the Network Plus and Server Plus. And so if you can blow past both Network Plus and Server Plus, I think you're pretty much ready for a CCNA. But I also think that, as I said earlier, that's more of a journey. You don't just walk into a network engineering job. That just doesn't happen like that. There's a a lot of nuances that I don't even know when it comes to network engineering. And I work with, my colleague sitting in the next cubicle next to me. He knows all of it. He can do topologies, network topologies. He can do schematics. He's in charge of a lot of things. And this is a brother. He's a brother. He knows his stuff. Like, he has to know his stuff. He gets called on to a tabletop exercise, for the company. He has to be able to answer a lot of those questions that are critical to wide area networks and multi-cloud and all these sort of things that matter to the company as to whether or not security authentication, because you have RSA, you have Duo, you have these sort of multi-factor authentication systems that are not just for security, but also for networking too, so that people can traverse the network using these sort of escalated credentials. These things matter. You got to be able to answer to that, and you got to be able to write out a course of action as to how you're going to be able to do a recovery in the event that there is an outage. What sites, what other regions can you connect to? In the cloud, you have east, west, regions, but you don't actually know where those, those services are. You just know that that's where the regions are. And so you got to be able to explain these sort of things. These things are critical to actually being inside of an organization. I think a lot of guys underestimate what it takes to be in IT. It's not something that you can just wake up, fire up a StreamYard stream, and then, suddenly I'm in here. We have database architects, that we work with now, database engineers. These people are fundamental to the organization. They still have a relevant role, despite what people want to say about ChatGPT and things like that. Oracle ain't going nowhere. Most of your legacy banks are married to Oracle. They cannot go anywhere.
Going nowhere. Repeat that. Nowhere.
Yeah. And can I answer what you're saying, Mike? Like that pathway you pointed out, as far as Network Plus and Server Plus and then CCNA, that's the what do you call it? The private sector. That's the private sector. When you go to the government sector, you have to add another one of those CompTIA certs in there, which is Security Plus, because a lot of that equipment, IP addresses, all that stuff, is secret, and so you have to have a clearance in order to work in those areas. They ain't gonna let you back there unless you got that clearance. So and Security Plus will satisfy that 8570 requirement.
Yep.
So just throwing that out there.
I concur on that.
Just throwing that out there, Mike.
No,
Yeah.
man. And two,
that's a great point.
Real quick and I think Mike touched on it. He don't know everything he just mentioned. You need to understand as a cybersecurity professional. He talked about the DBA, the network guys, the Cisco guys, the sysadmin. You got to understand all that as a cybersecurity guys, because you got to secure each one of those points. If any one of those points are weak, you get hacked. Go ahead, Nicole. Oh, my bad. No. I said what I need to say. You guys got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, not even just about being hacked, but how do you keep your uptime up, right? Your posture, your whole entire posture has to be functional. 100%. Anytime if you're in the legacy banking sector, they can't afford to have 60 minutes of downtime. That's a complete disaster for them. Especially during banking hours. Maybe at night they can kind of skirt around, but if you're a multinational company, you got operations in Singapore, operations in Australia, in Luxembourg, and in Toronto and Montreal. Man, that stuff is
everybody getting ready. Everybody getting right up. Now, real quick, I worked at DoD. I used to pay retirees. We were down when they were supposed to get paid. I shit you not. We worked 27 hours because these people got to get paid no matter what, man. So downtime is, like you said, not tolerated. You can't have it, or you're gonna be fired. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things. Everybody has to be certified. I know in the government that is a big thing. Like everybody has to hold one cert at best. Even in the private sector now, it's getting to be like that. You know, somebody better be holding some kind of cert because your cyber insurance is going to go up if people are not certified because they don't want to be certifying or insuring your organization with underskilled and undercertified people. That becomes a liability to them. These are the sort of governance nuances that happens inside organizations that are looking to fulfill these roles. These articles don't tell you that, but when you're on the inside, like I heard somebody in the manosphere talk about, oh, you know, AI is coming to take your job. Not exactly. Not exactly. Not anytime soon. I can tell you that much. They're not going to take anybody's job anytime soon in the organization. And so that's not something that's easy. AI is a technology. Generative AI is a technology that has to go through an architectural review process. You can't just introduce technology into the workplace just because it's trending in the market. It just doesn't work like that. And I think that, you know, the people who were talking about that last week in the manosphere are selling a lot of misinformation and don't really understand the you know, these critical factors inside many of these organizations. They are afraid to bring in these technologies that's going to either compromise their data or actually turn their environment upside down. They don't want that. It has to go through some kind of architectural review process. It has to be, you have to have some skilled people that can really understand all of that. And AI professionals command a high dollar. $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 is not uncommon. I was reading an article, I think the other day, you know, one guy was making $800,000 for one of these mega corporations because he was a some kind of AI architect or something like that. I forget what it was, man. He was AI scientist. Sorry, he's an AI scientist. These are the sort of things that that matter. I mean, how do you know from a information security standpoint what that AI is actually doing?
Well, real quick, my boss, we just
That's
wrote
a heavy role.
We just wrote a policy. Yeah, we just wrote a policy, Mike. They said, do not put any corporate data in there. Do not put. Now you can help it write you an email, but if you put any corporate data with our trademark or logo, your ass is fired. Because if you look back, ChatGPT had a spillage. You put some stuff in there, other people can see your searches. Yeah. So like you said, it's not ready for prime time. They're doing some basic stuff with it, but like you said, it's not ready for prime time. So whoever's expounding that, right, is, you know, a little misinformation or they're misinformed.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's where we are right now. And I think that if you're trying to become a network engineer, I think that the Network Plus, the Server Plus, and the CCNA is that life cycle that you really want to be interested in. I also want to pitch this in as well. I think understanding ITIL for processes, service management is really critical. There is a way of how you engage ticketing. You know, it's not just about help desk. Help desk, it sounds easy, but they have to abide by these same principles too, because if, you know, you put the wrong, if you copy and paste, cross-pollinate wrong information into a ticket and, you know, that goes out, man, I'm telling you, man, that you can't just reverse it because you don't have those privileges and you don't have the ability to try to reverse that ticket. You know, once it goes out, it goes out. Once that email goes out, it goes out. You take the wrong IPs or the wrong, you start opening up, giving people privileges inside the environment that don't necessarily need to have these privileges. That falls back on you. And that, you know, somebody says, hey, prof, can you open up, you know, give me access to X, Y, Z, you know, application in the cloud. Oh yeah, well, let me just do that real quick. Not going to happen because somebody needs to have a paper trail to say this needs to be done this way. And who gave him access? Oh, it was Prof. Well, you know, Prof, let's have a conversation in this conference room.
I've seen that before. You know, we always know for ticket, your supervisor, whoever owns that data, needs to okay for you to see that data or open up that port and give you your privileges too, right? And two is security. And you've seen this. If you don't know what to do sometimes, just give them root or give them sysadmin. And I'm like, nah, man, that's too many privileges, man. So that's a whole nother, but you're right, Mike. I'm always visiting people. Young developers do that a lot. That people have to go see them. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was what they call PAM, privilege access management.
Yeah, we got one. We use one. So yeah, it's crazy. But real quick, just what you said on that networking, I like guys, especially young black, because I think networking is one of the biggest teams in a corporation. And they're one of the few teams, especially in a big corporation, they usually have a third shift. So they usually have the most people for you to get into the corporation, and you can pivot to other stuff. So I always tell people networking is definitely a good place to start, and definitely a stepping stone if you ever want to get into cybersecurity.
Yeah, on call. You always have to have somebody on call in case there's
facts, which sucks, but yeah, but you gonna be in the door. But yeah, they got the most people.
Ram, do you have anything you want to add to this conversation?
Yeah, this is Ryan. Peace, everybody. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Just in terms of the skills and the degrees conversation. What a lot of companies are having a problem with is wrestling with the idea of going from a company to a learning organization. And so for the audience who's never heard of the term, this was a term that was popularized by this guy named Peter Senge, who defined it as any organization that prioritizes personal and professional growth through knowledge transfer. These organizations encourage learning as part of their fundamental culture and overall vision for long-term success. And so, in terms of employee training and development, this is a very serious problem because you have to look at companies' culture. And what you're finding, because I know I've seen this, is that there's a serious clash between the C-suite level people and middle management and lower level employees, because anytime that change comes in terms of the workforce, there's a fear that the change is going to bring about a particular employee's end of their actual employment. And in a lot of instances, that is true. But just like companies have to evolve and get better, employees have to do as well. So what some companies are starting to do, they're starting to implement certain things within their structure to help bring about this change. But across the board, it's going to be a painful process just because humans really don't like change. I just wanted to read something for the edification of the audience as it relates to this training or retraining and upskilling and development purposes, so people can kind of understand how they need to be looking at the particular situation so they can better know how to approach these issues within the workforce and know how to actually work through it and work around these particular situations. This one person said, from a training and development perspective, increases in automation mean that employees will need to be provided with job retraining at the national and company level to help them gain new skills and change careers if necessary. Education and training will need to address science, technology, engineering, and math, but also skills in leadership, managing others, collaborative problem solving, social reasoning, creativity, and learning to learn. What a lot of people are having a problem is actually getting people open to the idea of relearning. Most people think that learning stops at whatever level of school that you achieve, and that's not true. Learning is a lifelong endeavor, so you're going to constantly need to be evolving. And so we've seen in this space that we've been considered people who are boring, but boring is where the information is. you're going to have to, I mean, you're in the information age, and those who have the right information are going to be those people who are going to be the ones who are having success long term. When you start looking at some of these jobs in these fields, what you find is that there's a lot of hating going on, because if you get upskilled in the right type of skills, I mean, you're talking about jobs that can be making like $200,000 to $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 and things like that. So you're going to cause a lot of consternation for certain people who have not upskilled. And so a lot of companies are just really, their backs are really kind of against the wall, because on the one hand, they have to evolve with the environment in terms of competition. And then at the same time, they have to completely retool or reconfigure their actual cultural model in terms of management. And one of the most critical aspects of this is, if management doesn't buy into the change, then the lower level employees are not going to buy into it. And I think that's one of the biggest problems is that management, I think it's easier to get employees to buy into something, because a lot of the employees, they want to just do their job properly. But many people in management, they're having a hard time going from a more authoritative style of management to more of a management style that doesn't just bite people's heads off for making mistakes. And that's the key point in terms of the learning organization aspect, that you don't look at the mistakes as a negative thing. You look at it as a way to actually improve the model of the company itself. So I think that a lot of people really have a hard time whose management styles are much more in line with penalizing you than encouraging you. And the problem is that a lot of these companies don't understand that talent is king and queen. So you can't necessarily offer people more money to get them to comply. Some people will take less money for the right job lifestyle. They might take, less money to go work in a company that allows them to live the kind of life that they want to, and to have that kind of work-life balance that they're looking for. So a lot of these people are really in a pickle, because they don't have the expertise to do this. So this is why so much of the training and development money is starting to go towards more of the soft skills aspect, because you're really having to rebuild employees, basically. I mean, this is what you're really having to do because of the poor habits over time that people have learned. And, that's really where a lot of the issues are really coming in. The company has their particular model in terms of what they do to make money. They don't have the expertise to redesign, the social skills necessary that come with being in a more collaborative work style environment. And it's really causing a lot of problems in this arena, and just across the board, in the labor force across the board.
Well, I can tell you from experience, that's kind of last on their agenda. If you look at some of the organizations that we've been to, the last thing they need to be worried about is reskilling employees for their their soft skills. Soft skills aren't necessarily the problem. The problem is a lot of bureaucracy and chaos in the environment. It's one thing to have bureaucracy, but it's another thing to have bureaucracy in chaos. Having too much red tape in the environment, and then having a chaotic environment that has no structure and no sort of real genuine leadership, that's always going to be the downfall 99% of the times for a lot of companies. And that's why when you hear about breaches, when you hear about CISOs and CTOs being let go or being fired or taken off, that's a leadership issue. And so I don't know if companies are necessarily running into, and from an IT perspective, I don't know if they necessarily have the issue of soft skills. I think that, with things like Microsoft Copilot and some of the other add-ons, you can kind of make up. That's why I was talking about earlier about autocorrect. autocorrect mask a lot of these areas of deficiencies. But when you have chaos and bureaucracy inside of an environment, like the articles we covered earlier about IT burnout, a lot of folks leaving IT because, it's just too chaotic in a lot of these areas, and people don't feel like they're being fulfilled in a lot of these roles. And I would dare to say that I think a lot of those people are Black people, more so than white. I think that there are a lot of white Black people who may not see a pathway to victory or upward mobility opportunity available for them, and so they get burnt out really quickly. I think one of the articles we covered a few years ago showed that Black people have some of the highest turnover rates in IT, something like 13 to 16 months, which is actually pretty significant. And that means that these environments that they're running into were already in disarray. And I don't think any soft skills are going to be able to help you navigate those environments. I mean, you're in a pool full of sharks.
Facts.
You can't navigate and negotiate with those type of folks. So let's have roundtable closing thoughts. Ram.
Well, I would just say this: in the healthcare field, it's very problematic. You're talking about something that is dealing with a lot of human-to-human contact, and so this has this lack of continuity from the management perspective is actually having an effect on the delivery of healthcare itself. And so that's the reason why I read the part that I read, because it did talk about also the leadership aspect as well. And that's why I said it's an employee issue, but it's really, to me, it's more of a management issue. And so when you have the environment where, anytime you have an environment where any employee, no matter what their ethnicity is, feel that they can't grow in that type of environment, that's just going to be it's going to be a culture problem, and it's definitely going to be a management problem. Management is the level that is supposed to implement the vision of the C-suite level, what the mission is of the company. And if they're losing people in this environment, companies are having to compete with not just companies in their cities or their state or the national level. They're having to compete internationally for talent. And so you can't afford to just be losing competent talent because your culture is jacked up. So it is going to come a point where this stuff is going to be brought to the fore. And we're already seeing it, because we're seeing such a talk, but not really a full implementation, but a talk about things centered around mental health. Why are they talking about mental health so much? Because you have employees who are experiencing things like burnout and stuff like that, because of the environment is creating such a hostile place for them. They just washing out, not because they don't have the talent, because if they didn't have the talent, they wouldn't even be there. It's really the culture of the particular place. And as we move forward, this mental health stuff is really going to really ramp up even more so. We're seeing bills even pass. We're seeing bills even pass in different states that's actually dealing with, starting to put more emphasis on the mental health aspect of things. So in the corporate environment, it's definitely going to be an issue that people need to really address. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to compete out here in business, because you're not going to have the talent to compete.
Yeah. Let me answer this question real quick in the chat room from Giogmi. He says, I'm in Canada, so it might differ in the US. What about in AS, in computer science IT? Work a few years while completing those certs each year, then attending computer science, computer engineering, bachelor's with co-op. But that's part of the issue that we're covering tonight, right? Skills versus degrees. A couple of people in our organization don't only have an associate's degree. They haven't gone back to school because wasn't necessarily required for them to go back to school to do their job. They work in identity management, they work in business continuity. They don't necessarily need a MBA or anything like that to do their job. And they have a lot of tenure inside the organization. So it's not really required. It's just more of a time consumption thing, time as a resource. And so it's not really necessary that you need anything more than an associate's degree. I think we just have to reevaluate how community colleges really, treat their programs. I think that it's kind of hard to teach computer science in a 2-year format, but I think that information systems is the key thing that you need to be inside IT, more so than computer science, because computer science is kind of a different sort of track than information systems. Information systems, focuses on those information technology and business management and administration areas that are required for a lot of these roles. You don't necessarily need computer science. You're not going into Raytheon or some of these other areas like Microsoft, trying to develop applications. You're more a part of the business function, business continuity aspect. Ernest, closing thoughts.
Okay. My focus is mainly on the young people, and specifically the middle schoolers. I think middle school is the crossroads to get these young brothers and sisters into these disciplines. And a concept I've come up with recently, if they ask you how much you make, you tell them. You tell them. About maybe 3 or 4 years ago in my church, I set up a little evening workshop or discussion panel with a bunch of techies I knew. And one of my requirements to them was when they talk to the kids, 12, 13, 14, was you have to give them your salary range and catch their attention. If they say no, then no, I'm not gonna let you talk to them. So tell them how much you make, and you'll probably get their attention then. So everybody likes to get paid. We never turn down a paycheck. You never went in there and told your boss, boss, why don't you just keep the check, okay? You can just keep the check. So most young kids that age, they say, how much you make? Tell them. Or just give them the range that you're in. So let's be a little bit more open with them, and maybe we'll get their attention. That's my closing.
All right. Keep it techie.
Sorry about that, my mic. I was trying to get my mic unmuted. But this was a good discussion. I appreciate you covering these topics and these articles, because it's very important, and I think it should help people that are listening. So I definitely support this message that you guys are pushing, to help people navigate this industry that is chaotic at times, but is lucrative,
Facts.
And I think it can help, more Black people get into, better positions financially and, otherwise. But no, that's all I really wanted to say. I appreciate it, Mike, for putting this together. And good talk.
Absolutely. Prof.
Once again, like Keep It Techie said, thanks for having me. Great discussion. We all know IT is a lifelong learning adventure. Like you said, this is a journey. Even after 55, I'm trying to get some new skills so I can stay relevant. Keep your head down, and any of these brothers up on these panels, reach out to us. Any of us will help you. If not, PBO yell at them. Thanks for having me up, Mike.
Problem. Nagone.
Yeah, awesome show. We always have to cover this. Very important that we do this. And hey, listen, Mike, thanks for having me up, and great show.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button on the way out, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so